Hey there, today I'd like to go ahead and show you how to retouch your wildflower landscape photographs. So this particular photograph I actually took up in the mountains last summer, hiking up into the backcountry on the evening, and the storm clouds were just breaking up, and a beam of light actually came over on this one and lit up the flowers and everything. And it was a pretty cool moment here. And I just want to show you, I was using, let me go to info here. So as you can see, it was taken at 1/50th of a second, f7.1, ISO 100, and I was using my wide angle 11mm Tokitna lens on this shot. And it gave it a really cool perspective with the mountains in the backdrop and everything. So let's go ahead and take a look on how to touch this up a little better. And this was shot in raw format, so that's why the picture does look a little more flat compared to having a lot of color. And I pretty much shoot all my photographs in raw, so it gives me a lot of control for retouching these types of photographs. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to come over here to the right, and just to let you know, see, I'm going to scroll on down to where it shows the highlights here. And I'm actually going to take the highlights down just a little bit. And the idea behind that is to just help make the clouds pop just a little bit more. Now, what I want to do is just bump the shadows just a little bit up, just to try to light up a little more of the foreground. Then I'm going to pop my whites up just a little bit. And I'm going to about 12, and I'm going to take my blacks to about -12 on this one. Now I'm actually going to come back to clarity, vibrance, and saturation here in a little bit, but I like to do is a lot of manual control on my saturation, so I'm actually going to scroll down, and under the tab here where it says HSL, color, and B and W, which is black and white, I'm going to hit this little tab, and I'm going to go through and just kind of ease a little bit these up to try to make these flowers pop just a little bit more for some saturation. See if I can bring some of these colors up. And I like to do these between like 16, 18, 14. I'm just kind of taking these up just a little bit. I just don't want to overkill it to where it looks oversaturated. And a lot of times it's just experimenting with these. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. Just bumping some of these up just a little bit, so it kind of helps the picture already pop just a little bit more. Now, a cool little trick for these kind of more evening type photographs, I love using this split toning right here. So if you just click on a little tab where it says split toning, and I'm actually going to just bump this up just a little bit to about 8. And then under where it says hue, I have the option of just kind of dragging this across. And I think I'm just going to bring it all the way to the right. And just take that up just a little bit there. So anyways, that kind of gives the color just a little bit nicer up in the clouds with the evening sunlight. So now let's come on down here to where it says sharpening. So here I usually like to do is probably take this up to a good 50%. And then what I'm doing under masking, I'm actually holding my option key on my Mac. If you're on a PC, I'm pretty sure it's your control key. So when you click that down under masking, just kind of pull this over. And what I'm doing here is I'm only sharpening the areas in white, and the parts that are in black are not getting sharpened. So already just kind of making the picture just a little more sharper there, which looks really cool. So noise reduction, sometimes even on these evening photographs, they can have just a slight noise to them. So on these ones, I usually only go about 10 on average for these. Then under the lens correction tab, where it says enable profile correction, I'm just going to click that. Since it was a wide angle lens, you can just by clicking on and off, you can see the difference there. And it definitely kind of lit up the picture just a little bit better. So under transform, I'm actually going to skip on that one for this picture, but under effects, Under highlight priority, I'm actually going to take this down to about 7. So what this is doing is kind of giving just a slight border where it's just a little bit darker. So it kind of draws the eye more into the center of the photograph. And another newer feature that Lightroom offered a couple years back is the dehaze. This is a pretty neat feature, but this one I usually just touch it up about a 5 to a 7. I think I'm going to keep 7 for this photograph. Okay, now I'm going to do is scroll back up to the top. And I want to do is just add a little bit more clarity on this one, so I'm going to bump up the clarity just a little bit here. I think I'll just take that to 7. Vibrance. Let's go ahead and bump this up. This actually helps really make your colors pop. Really nice is the vibrance. And then saturation, I might still add just a little bit more on this shot, just to give it a little more pop to it. Now I want to do a couple more things just to really make this thing pop a little bit more. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm pretty sure this is the Radial Filter. And I'm going to go and probably set the exposure to about 30 right here. And I'm going to reset the clarity. Everything else I'm going to keep at 0 for right now. So what I want to do is I'm just going to kind of light up a little bit. Couple spots here. I'm just creating this radial filter, and I'm going to just kind of play around with the exposure just a little bit. I'm going to do that again over here. And just bump it up ever so slightly. And I can always adjust it up or down, and I want to do one more out in the distance here. Okay, one last thing I want to do is add the graduated filter here. I'm going to just click on that. I'm going to run it up from the bottom here. And once again, I got the exposure up around 30, 32. And I'm going to bump the clarity just a hair more on this one. And I'm going to hit done. And I think I'm going to actually take the highlights down just a hair more on this one. Okay, so let's do a little comparison here. So I'm going to come down here, click this, the 2 Y's here, so I can see the comparison. Now, let me open or close this window so it makes it a little bigger for you. So as you notice here, this is the original shot. It wasn't bad, but it was really flat because it was shot in RAW format. And now this is the finished product right here, which turned out pretty sweet looking. So I'm going to go back to full. And I'm going to hit my F key on my keyboard here, which really gives it full shot here. And as you can see, it kind of makes the picture, and there's always a little bit more room I might add for just some more improvements, but in the most part, I like the way this photograph turned out. And a good tip too is when you're retouching, is you do a retouch. And then when you think you have it, it's a good time to just go take a couple minute break, go grab something to drink, or just take a little break, and then you come back. And then it's funny how a lot of times you'll look at the picture and be like, oh, I want to touch it up a little bit more, or redo something, or overexpose something. So it's always a good little tip for when you're doing a retouch. So anyways, I hope this video helped you out, and if it did, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, Online Photography Academy. I have a lot of really cool tutorials coming up. And we will catch you guys on the next video. Get out there with those cameras, and you guys have a real good one.